first thing that we're going to do with the clay is we're going to try and get it into a ball. It doesn't have to be a perfect ball, okay? Because the skull that we're making is not, as you know, a perfect sphere. So don't worry about getting it into, you know, perfectly geometric and symmetrical sphere, all right? Just a round shape, all right, is going to work. The first thing that you have to do when you're making a skull is you have got to hollow out their ball. All right, see how this one here is hollow? It means I can put my finger in and stick my finger out the eye, stick my finger out the nose, if that's how you want to make your nose. There's two reasons for that. Okay, the first reason is so that you can put a little candle in there if you want, and it will shine. The light from the candle will shine through the eyes and the nose, not the mouth, but the eyes and the nose. And then the second reason is more about how clay works, and making sure that nothing gets destroyed in the kiln when it gets fired. So if, for example, I tried to put a giant ball of clay like this into the kiln and it isn't hollow, it will blow up in the kiln and explode. All right, so it's very important that when you make your skull that you're not just drawing superficial eyes into the surface of the clay. You need to have a hollow skull, and you need to be drilling the eyes and the nose into that hollow shape so that your skull doesn't blow up in the kiln. Okay, so that's very important that you remember that step. All right, I'm going to put this over here, and to make your skull hollow, all you have to do is first put it down on your surface, because you're going to need your skull to be flat so it sits, right? So this, you can see, is a flat edge. All right, so all you have to do is start with a flat edge, which means just putting your sphere down on a surface and giving it a little bit of gentle pressure, and check it out, there's my flat surface. All right, so put the rounded edge or the rounded side of your sphere into your palm with the flat surface facing up like this. See that? And you're going to start making it hollow in the middle. This is how you make a pot, pinch pot in ceramics and pottery, but we're not doing it that way today. We are making a skull out of it, all right? So the walls of your skull really do have to still be thin, or else it could still blow up in the kiln. So you're going to make your walls about the width of a pen, pencil, marker, skinny marker, right? Which is about a 1/4 inch thick. All right, and that includes not just these walls here, but the wall on the inside. That means the top of the skull, the top of the head, which is right here. All right, you don't have to completely make it that thin yet, because we're going to be doing a lot of sculpting on the skull as we go along. So now it sort of looks a little bit like an oval as opposed to a sphere. You see that? And that's our first step. All right. Now, I still want my skull to be kind of round up on the top here, so I'm giving it a little bit of a shape with the curve of my palm. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to bore out the eyes, and bore out just means drill the eyes. And I just like to use my finger, because when you can see here that the eye holes are pretty big. I mean, big enough for me to stick my entire thumb in, and I might have bigger thumbs than you, right? So we want to make those holes pretty big. All right, so you can see from this one that the holes for your skull don't go straight down like this when it's sitting on the, so don't put your holes here for your eyes, right? Really, you want your holes to boop, come down this way, because this is going to be where the face is. Do you see these two faces, you know, side by side? The face is really coming down from here down. All right, so try and position your eyes based on that. I always like to kind of set it down on a surface and take a look at it. And before I actually get the holes through the clay, I like to make a little indentation to see if that's where, you know, looks good. And I think I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to pick up the clay off the counter and I'm going to stick my thumb through. So this is why we didn't do too much sculpting or shaping of the ball right off the bat, because when you bore through the clay with your thumb, it's going to change the shape of your clay. So don't worry about that. All right, I got a whole bunch of stuff in there. I'm just going to grab it out. Doesn't have to be pretty on the inside. We just want it to look pretty on the outside. All right, so my thumb's all the way through. Give it a little swizzle in there. I'm going to do the same on this side. And be gentle with it because the clay is wet and malleable. That means squishable. It moves. So when I bore through the next eye, it's really going to start to change shape, and that is okay. Don't worry, because we're sculpting, all right? We're sculpting. And it's going to change shape as we give it features. All right, look at that. So that looks, you know, the shape of this head is a lot like Jack Skellington's head in Nightmare Before Christmas, where he just has a very circular face as opposed to a long, elongated sort of skull. And if you like that, go for it. I like it too. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, now that I have my eyes kind of bored out there, look, it doesn't look pretty on the inside. You can see it's not smooth. Don't worry about it. No one's going to see the inside of this skull, all right? This is where the toothpick comes in handy because we're gonna do the nose, all right? This nose, look at that, is like, it started off as a triangle, but as I started to sculpt it became more of a teardrop shape. If you like that, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second, but first I'm going to show you how to give it a different style nose. And all I'm doing, look, is going through the clay with my toothpick. You can see it went all the way through. And I've made 2 lines. All right? And I've gone up and down to kind of clean up the lines so that if you put a candle in it, you will be able to see the light coming through it. Okay. All right, so that's a different style of nose than this one. All right, you can choose how to style your skeleton's nose however you want. Now, if you would like a triangle nose or a teardrop nose, all you have to do from this point, you can leave it like this, and that'll definitely look spooky and like a skull, or you can fully connect these lines into a triangle, right? And then we're going to have to bore it out like we did with the eyes. I'm going to have to remove that centerpiece, and this is tricky, but don't worry. We're sculpting, so if it gets a little messy and lumpy and bumpy, we can smooth it out. All right. So the trick, though, and the thing that gets a little bit challenging with making a nose like this is making sure these walls right here, this wall and this wall, don't get too thin, because they can break off and crack, and then you'll just have a sort of a big gaping hole in the middle of your skull instead of a little nose. So we want to make sure that we don't lose our wall too much. See that wall there? This wall shouldn't get too thin. All right. All right. So we have got 2 eyes, we have got a nose, and now we just need a mouth. All right, so to make the mouth, I kind of like to set it down on a table for stability, and I like to push in. Well, I'm not going to set it down because the camera can't catch this, but I like to push my thumbs, make just a little bit of an indentation here so that you start to get the definition of your cheeks. I'm going to bring it all the way back. Oh, sorry, I'm going off camera there. I'm going to bring it back a little bit here. And this is going to start making your skull look less like a sphere and more like a skull. So you can see what I'm doing. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'm pinching here to make an indentation along the place where I'm going to be drawing my mouth. You can do this a bunch of different ways. You can turn your skull and pinch it with your thumb, right here. You can hold it like this and pinch it like this along here, which is kind of nice because what you're doing here is you're creating cheekbones, but you're also creating a chin, which is something that if I remember correctly, Jack Skellington doesn't really have, because he's like, sort of like a perfect sphere on his skull. All right, so this is creating a form that's more like a skull. Gives it definition, right? You see how that looks a little bit different? I'm gonna clean up the nose and the eyes, and then we'll keep going, okay? Okay, so we're going to draw the mouth, and we're not going to go all the way through. That means using your toothpick, we're going to draw or inscribe a line for the mouth, not make the mouth a hole for light to shine through when you use it as a candle or I'm going to start here underneath the eye socket. And I'm gonna draw it sort of right in the middle of this indentation that we made that created our chin and our cheekbones. You see that? A little upturned at the side. This side isn't really that upturned. I'll make it more of a smile. Alright, so that's the line that separates the top jaw from the bottom jaw. So now we'll do the lines that give our teeth some definition. Just simple vertical lines. However many you want, however far apart you want to make them, it's up to you. All right. So that is all you've got to do. From here on out, it's you making changes to your piece the way you want to make changes. That means if you feel like you'd like your skull to be a little wider, you can put your thumbs in there and give it a little pull, and suddenly, whoop, it's a wider skull at the top. If you like it to be a little bit more narrow, you can always give it a pinch here at the cheeks. You can make it narrow at the base, and you can also give it a pinch here at the top. And see, my eyes suddenly got very skinny there.